So this is the video where I decide to share my journey, my healing journey, my recovery journey. So a lot of you guys have just found this channel, so you may not really have tried to understand why this whole thing started. So this video is to inspire you. For the most of you guys going through abuse, it's a video to inspire you, because at the end of the day, I still know that no matter what is going on in your lives, you can wake up one day, you can get out, you can break free, you can heal, and you can still become the greatest version of yourself. So around 4.5 years ago, I broke out from a narcissistic abusive relationship. I had already been suffocating for quite a long time. I had already contemplated so many times, planned so many ways. I'd done everything to leave that relationship. It had been very difficult. So towards the end of the relationship, I had already started having problems with health. That time I had problems with my skin. I had also digestive problems. I had migraines. I had brain fog. I was exhausted physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I was exhausted in that time. So everything started with the trip. I was like, okay, so it's my time to travel. I had been away from family for 10 years. So I thought that I was ready to go back and meet my family, to visit my family. So I planned the trip. And of course, you guys already know, sometimes when you plan these trips, a lot of chaos can start going on in the relationship. You know, these narcissists don't want you to leave, because they think when you leave, you may never return. So they are scared about you leaving, even for the shortest trip. But anyhow, for some reason, I planned this trip. I bought the ticket. I hopped on the plane. So I went home to see family and everything. And, so the trip went well. Towards the end of the trip, I got a message. And this particular individual told me we had to break up. Now, back in the days, I didn't know anything about narcissistic abuse. I didn't even know who a narcissist was. So this person told me we need to break up. I said, okay, since we have always been having these arguments often, maybe the time has come for us to finally break up, you know. So I was finally relieved to hear it from this other person, because I was the one trying to do it before. So anyway, I said, I'm already preparing to return. So when I'm back, we'll sit down and we're going to discuss the arrangements and everything, what's going to happen and all that. So I returned. I was scared. Okay, so for anybody who is going through a breakup, of course, there's a lot of, you're scared, you don't know what to expect and everything. So your mind is all over the place. But at the same time, I was like, okay, maybe this can happen at this time. So I returned. And I would believe that in the next 4 days, we talked about these things, okay, this and this was happening. I remember even sometime we got into a fight. And I had to call the cops. There was a very, very intensive situation where I felt that my boundaries had been overstepped. And I thought that I would get even violent. But fortunately, I called the cops. We talked about this, but of course, things didn't go very far. The case just ended there. Okay, so normally when it comes to this kind of cases, a lot of law enforcement people don't understand that you're dealing with a narcissist. So they will handle it like any form of domestic situation or whatever. You know, some people want to call it domestic abuse or whatever. So nothing happened at that time. In those 4 days, I did not unpack my suitcases. So from the moment of my return to the moment of departure, my suitcases stayed intact. The only thing I did was gather up a few things, my belongings here and there, and add to the suitcases so that I'll prepare to leave. But then there was a problem in that time. So I didn't have money at the time. I just came back from holidays, so I'd blown up all the money during the holidays. And I was not even prepared for this kind of, situation of the breakup and everything. So what really happened in that time, I called a friend. I was like, hey, listen, there's this thing going on. There was a very close friend of mine. Until this moment, I still respect that gentleman. He was there in that time when I needed him. So I called him, I told him what is going on. I told him I need a place to stay for some time until I put myself together. So the friend was like, wow, okay. So he knew about this relationship, but he was not sure that it had come to this point, of like breaking up and everything. But he was like, okay, so if that's what is happening, you can come over to my place. We have a place. We can let you stay on the floor. We have a place in the living room. Our bedrooms are occupied, but we have a place. So this friend was also with a partner, so they wouldn't, there was a place on the floor in the living room. So they had an extra mattress. They allowed me to sleep in their house. So I picked up my bags. I went to his house. And I started a new life after the discard. That was the first discard. So when I was in that time, of course, the grieving was still going on, a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of chaos was still going on. So, these back and forth conversations, toxic conversations and everything. So, but anyhow, I was like, I was finding a way to deal with this because it was very painful in that time. Sometimes these cards are very difficult when you also have children that are involved in these entanglements and relationships. So I stayed with my friend for about 2 weeks. Of course, I went on to my job. I had a job in that time. I used to be a welder. I used to work in a factory, so we used to do welding and everything. So I kept on with my job in that time. And I put myself together, and I called somebody who fortunately happened to have a room for me that I could rent in that time. So I put my little resources together that I had got at that time, and I moved into this accommodation. And of course, the grieving went on and on. It was one of the most painful moments, I think, in my life during the first discard. That was the most painful thing I'd ever experienced in my entire life. So when I was there in that small room, I would get, of course, back and forth messages here and there, this and that. I would get some few days and times to see my daughter. And then eventually, my first Hoover came in. So this Hoover took about 3 months. So the first Hoover came in. Now, when the Hoover came in, that's when I realized that I had not yet gotten over this entanglement, whatever relationship. I call it an entanglement now, but in that time, I used to call it a relationship. So I hadn't yet gotten over this entanglement. And when the Hoover came in, it was very easy because, of course, I hadn't yet done any healing on myself as well. And I remember also going into a rebound during that period when I was out of the vicinity. So I went into a rebound as well. The rebound, of course, you guys know those rebounds never work because you haven't yet healed, so you haven't yet, done any work on yourself. So you're just going to keep on repeating the pattern of attracting even much more difficult narcissists. It didn't work, but of course I went back for the Hoover. So when I went for this Hoover, then I thank God until this moment because God allowed this Hoover to happen, because it was from that point that I'll receive my awakening in about 6 or 7 weeks, I think, if I remember well. So when I came back to the vicinity, of course, there was this nice, you guys know the love bomb went on again in the first 2 or 3 weeks. It was nice and, and all lovey-dovey and all that stuff. And after that, the abuse kicked off again. So this time I was like, so that's when I started realizing that probably I had done a mistake of getting back into that situation. I started regretting the decision to get back into that thing because I realized that it had actually gotten even worse. And in this time, it was now evident that there was a third-party situation as well. So this thing went on, of course, for some time. And of course, the devaluation, very, very intensive devaluation in that time. A lot of devaluation was happening. And then I was thinking for a bit what to do. So I remember one day I was sitting down there by myself. I was, trying to get my head over so many things, situation, and in this particular situation, what was I going to do? How would I move on from there? So I was just there sitting by myself, and that's when I landed on the video. One video just popped up all of a sudden. So a lot of you guys, you think you are out there, you have been suffering and struggling, and you start seeing these videos popping up in front of your screens. You just know that probably it could be your time. It might be your time to break free, because that is the moment when I broke free from this situation. So the video popped up and it was talking about the triangulation in terms of relationship, whereby there's a cheating situation going on with the third party, So that's when I got the answers. Everything just clicked. That's when I landed on this word narcissist. Then I was like, okay, so what is all this thing about narcissism? So these other videos started showing up all of a sudden, and I was like clicking one by one from different creators, and they was all talking about the same thing. So I remember that day, that is when I had the light bulb moment. Very, very massive light bulb moment. And I received my awakening. Now, in that time, I didn't know that it was an awakening. I didn't know what an awakening was by then, back in the time. So I got the courage. I was like, oh, finally, I see it for what it is. I understand this whole thing is abuse and everything, because now I started learning about emotional abuse and narcissistic abuse. So I was like, okay, so now this time what I'm going to do, I'm not going to fight with this. It is probably time for me to let it go. So this is the time where I consciously allowed myself, I released this energy of fighting too hard, because you see, before this incident, I'd always been trying to save this relationship. But you see, the narcissist is enjoying this fuel when you're trying to save something that they know that cannot be saved. So they're actually enjoying this kind of situation whereby you're struggling around fixing things and trying to save this. They're enjoying this, and you're the only one that doesn't even know it. So what really happened in that time? I called over this person and told her, listen, it is time for this thing to end. Okay, so there's been this drama and everything going on and everything. So the narcissist didn't understand that I'd gone through this awakening. It's time for us to end this. We've been struggling too much over the years. Nothing is working. Things are just getting worse and worse. So there's nothing more we can do. Let us let this thing go. Okay, because I already confirmed in that time that there was a third party situation as well that was going on in that time. So what really happened now? We had to talk about a lot of things, the arrangements of children, what was going on, or, where I would be going and these things like that. I didn't mention the place that I was going, but I knew that I was going somewhere, although not very far from that vicinity. So, of course, like I did before in the first time, I packed my 2 suitcases again. Like I've told you guys, I left my house with 2 suitcases. I put my TV on the floor. I put everything together and a few bags here and there, cups and plates. Then this time I called another gentleman who I knew was running this a few real estates around the place. I called this person, and the person had the place for me. Fortunately, by God's grace, the place had been made available the previous night. When I called this person, there was a place here, you can come around and, you can take the place if you want to. So I told the person, reserve that place for me. I'm coming immediately. So I called the cab. I think from my awakening to the departure, it took about 24 hours. So I was very, very desperate to move. This time it was me who wanted to leave, The first time it was the person that wanted me to leave. But this time I was the one who wanted to leave, because I'd finally, my eyes had been opened to this reality of abuse and narcissistic abuse, and I'd finally understood what exactly was going on with this whole narcissism and everything. So I threw my suitcases in the bags. I went on to the new place. So you guys will be seeing on the screen, I may be showing you a couple of pictures and what, because I've already documented all these moments from the beginning. There are some pictures which I removed because I just couldn't handle seeing that stuff. But there are some pictures that I saved to document this journey and everything. So I moved to this new location. And in that new location, I closed myself for about 3 months. So the narcissist never knew where I was actually living, practically didn't know where I was living. Because I'd started kind of trying to heal myself and to work on a few things here and there. But of course, eventually, after 3 months, those are the moments when I encountered the greater narcissist. Like I've been talking about this thing many times in my videos. So that's also when the greater narcissist came in. So the greater narcissist came in, of course, I was like, okay, so since I've been doing some healing on myself for the last 3 months, I might as well just get into a new relationship. So when the greater narcissist came in, very, very cunning, very nice, beautiful woman, you know, all this, everything was looking like, you know, it was like the perfect match. And little did I know that I was actually setting myself up for the next series of abuse. So when I met this greater narcissist, I went into this entanglement as well. I thought it was a relationship, but of course I'm realizing, of course, later on that it was also another entanglement because I hadn't yet fully recovered and healed. So in that relationship, I could say that I started seeing the red flags in about maybe 3 to 4 weeks. I could pick up a few red flags, and I was like, there were some things I was seeing that very narcissistic about this person, but I was not really sure. So I would maybe even sometimes give her a benefit of doubt. Let's see what goes on. Let's see what happens, you know. So we went on a bit. And of course, I saw a lot of things, you know, gaslighting, greed, silent treatments. I started to see a lot of these blame shiftings and everything. I started to see everything. I've talked about so many things about this greater narcissist in my videos. I cannot go through them all again. So fortunately, the universe was with me at that time again. It was locked down. So this time I was able to see these things play out fully in front of me, you know. Post-awakening is the reason why I've told you guys mostly after awakening, you're going to have a clear view of who a narcissist is, especially if you have awakened from abuse. You're going to start having a clear view because you're trying to live a certain dimension. You're getting out of that old paradigm. And most of the things that have been happening there, you actually understand those things. Even if you may not actually have fully awakened, you may sometimes start to see these narcissists all over the place, everywhere around you. They're all over the place. So of course, I told this greater narcissist, I did not tell the greater narcissist that I found out that she was a narcissist. I was like, listen, as I see this relationship, the way it's going is not going to work out. So most likely we need to just let it go, you know. And we agreed to let this thing the way it is. But of course, initially when I was breaking away, I didn't say anything. So I first of all left the vicinity, went to my home, my place, and that's when I broke the news to this person. And I would later on find out, like in about 3-4 days, that I had actually caused a narcissistic injury. The details of that injury, I would not talk about that. That is only for me, okay? Now, eventually, I decided to stop dating. I was like, I need to stop this thing of dating, you know? I need to find out what is going on. Where are all these people coming from? Why all of a sudden they're coming out of the closet? I'm going left, they're there. I'm going right, they're there. I'm turning right, they're there. They're everywhere. So I stopped dating. I was like, I'm going to stop dating now. And I need to work on myself. I need to figure out what was the reason as to why these people would always keep on coming again and again. Okay, so I felt like there was this kind of cycle that I was supposed to start breaking. So in that time, I started the work. Ladies and gentlemen, when I tell you that I started the work, I did start the work. Okay, so when I talk about healing, I know what it takes to heal. I know what you have to do to heal. For a lot of you guys who don't yet know what to do to heal, I've told you can always book a session with me. I may take you through the methods that I've done and have always worked for me. So I started doing with the healing. Of course, in that time of the healing, I was starting to share some videos online. You know, I did a video. Sometimes I was sharing on Facebook, and sometimes I was sharing on YouTube. So I started doing videos one by one. I didn't even have any following in that time, you know. A subscriber, then there was 2, then there was 3, you know, videos after video. I was pushing out the videos. So eventually, in a couple of, it took about 7 or 8 months. That's when I got my first 1,000 subscribers. You know, for me, I've always been grateful for any achievement that I've always had. So I gave gratitude for that, you know. And of course, eventually, later on in my journey, I discovered that the more healing I did on myself and the more work I put into myself, I was becoming healthier. I was becoming more what do they call it? I was becoming healthier, more energy. I was more vibrant. Everything that I had lost back in the days during the narcissist time, everything had come back to me. Now, of course, like you guys already know, it took about 2 years, I think, during my videos. That is also when I discovered there was a problem with the family, because now I started to see, the more I healed this energy, is the more I started to see all the events that had been around me, people and places and everything. So that's when I discovered also this whole thing of the narcissistic family dynamics and everything. So that's when I got my second awakening. So my second awakening happened after like 2 years. So of course the second awakening happened. I was like, okay, so now, due to the fact that I've already dealt with so many narcissists before, I do not want any other series about narcissistic abuse. So I released the family. I extracted myself out of the unit. I was like, there's nobody is going to stop me and going to block me from healing. I'm going to do this healing anyway. So I made a very conscious and powerful decision to do the healing work. But I can promise you, ladies and gentlemen, back in the days, if you look at the Denzamos about 4.5 years ago and the Denzamos today, you can barely recognize us. We are two different people altogether. That is how powerful is healing. The more you start healing, ladies and gentlemen, you will always get your glow back. You'll get your energy back. You'll get your swagger back. You'll get your health back in shape. You are always going to become the best version of yourself at some point if you follow the process of healing. So for the most of you guys who never really knew the journey of this narcissistic abuse and everything, I've decided to share this thing with you. It has taken me almost 4.5 years to be able to share my journey. So, like I've said, this has been my journey. Your story will be different, another story will be different, but if it has always been narcissistic abuse, it is always going to be a common scenario for everyone. If you're a person that needs help, get in touch with me, book a session. There's an email in the description below. If you would like to donate or support my channel, the links you need also are in the description below. And until then, I will catch you guys in my next one. There's more signing out. Much love and blessings. Peace.